So being that my legs are still recovering, I decided I'm not going to do back yet. Well, I think I'm going to hit arms today, even though that's called for the next day. They're still fresh and I can still train them. I'll show you guys the arm routine here in a little bit. Time to go old school, huh? Got some Captain Planet. Buddy, you think you're coming? You coming with me? Yeah? Yeah! Yeah!
I'm recording.
Hey there, cutie pants.
Alright, so for the arm day, this is the one day of the week where I actually superset, because I'm doing both biceps and triceps, and I figure doing a smaller muscle group like this makes it much more attainable, because some of the bigger muscles I think would just take too long. So in this first exercise I start with just heavy barbell curls, and I'm using a bar because I'm trying to emphasize the most weight possible that I can lift, and with using just a little bit of momentum I pull the weight up towards my chin, and then I lower it slow and under control for a full stretch so that I can get that full range of motion in the bicep. Once I finish the third set of 3 for the heavy barbell curls, I go immediately into 40% of the weight for a straight 30 reps. And here I'm just focused on getting the pump and the squeeze from the bicep. So as you can notice, my form is just a little bit different. I'm keeping my upper arm locked in place and trying to only move the elbow joint for these reps. Now for the tricep portion of the workout, I go over and I'm actually doing a close grip version of a bench press using the Smith machine. This allows me to keep the form and stuff under control because it just slides up and down. But you'll notice when I grip the bar, I have my hands fairly narrow, roughly within my shoulder width, and I bring the weight down only the first half of the movement, because once I get to the point where my elbows are at 90 degrees, then I go ahead and push it back up, because any lower than that and I start actually working more of my chest and takes less of the focus off my triceps. Now, just like with the bicep exercise, after I finish my third set of the heavy tricep exercise for the close grip bench, I move on to 40% of the weight for 30 straight reps. And again, you'll notice I'm only coming down halfway and pushing back up because I'm focused on the extension of the elbow joint rather than the total movement of my shoulder itself. And once I'm done with a 30, I rack it and then we go on to the next exercise. Alright, after the 2 heavy movements, I now move on to supersetting bicep and tricep using the cross cable machine. For the biceps, I will be using a low cable curl, and again we're doing the 7 reps, the slow one in the middle, and 6 normal reps following. And as you can see, as I'm pulling it up, I slowly lift my arm up as I curl it towards my face, and I come back down on the stretching of the movement. And what that is allowing me to do is actually bring the 2 ends, both my elbow joint and shoulder, towards each other as I curl, because those are the areas where your biceps insert and attach. And if you bring them together, then you get a tighter squeeze of that muscle. Following that, I go right over to the other side doing a tricep press down using a rope. And one little trick here is that when I grab the rope itself, I'm making an OK sign with both hands, so I am just grabbing it with my pointer and my thumb. And what that allows me to do is, as I pull the rope down, I also pull it apart and outward, and that gives me not only a full extension of the tricep, but that little turning motion allows me to hit the outside edge of my tricep a little bit better. All right, after that we move on to the last exercise, which is a superset with a pull-up and dips for triceps. Now, just like on back days and on chest days, both of these exercises are in there. But if you'll pay attention, I am gripping it differently. So here for biceps, I actually bring my hands to the inside, and it's kind of like a variation of a hammer curl. And when I am lifting myself up, you'll actually notice, aside from the slow movement, I actually am only doing the top portion of the exercise, because when you're fully stretched out as you pull up, your back is doing a lot of the work until you get to that halfway point, and then you start utilizing a lot more of the bicep muscles. Now, after that, I go ahead and I hop down to dips, and just like we did dips on the chest day, the difference here is that I position my hands out wider. Those crossbars actually move, so I can rotate them outward. And for the tricep portion, I'm only doing the top half again, because my focus is getting to about 90 degrees of the elbow joint and then extending and focusing on contracting the tricep muscles. And so when I go out a little bit like that, I can actually focus more on the tricep and less on that full depth stretching out the chest. Now on to the finishing exercises for arm day. On the bottom I have 3 to pick from. The first one being a tricep kickback, either using a plate or in this case I'm using a kettlebell. And the whole purpose here is that I want to hold the weight on one of the ends so that the weight isn't centered in my hand. So as I push up, it actually gets harder because the weight is as far away from my elbow joint as possible, meaning it's a longer lever, more weight at the end, making it more difficult. One of the other finishers for the arm day is actually a lat cable curl down. Now this one is a little unique, but the purpose here is to focus on the bicep. And what is happening is when I'm locked into this position with my arms up above me, of the 2 biceps, you have your long and your short bicep heads. Well, the long bicep has a bunch of slack and cannot pull and contract on that muscle very well. So the short bicep head is primarily doing all the work, and it's isolated when you lift your arm up that high. And so by doing this exercise, you can actually increase the peak or the height of the bicep itself. It's also important that when doing this exercise in particular, you want to try to keep your upper arm, the area from your elbow to your shoulder, you want to keep that locked in place so that it's not moving and you're not using your back or other muscles to move the weight itself. The final finisher is something called a push-pull. And all you're doing here is you are setting up the cross cables so that the height is at your shoulders, and you switch sides. Well, one side is pushing and then you're pulling on the other cable. And what this does, it's kind of hitting everything. You're hitting a little bit of your triceps, a little bit of your biceps, you're also hitting your back, your chest. But an important factor here is it's actually engaging your core quite a bit, because you're trying to keep your body fixed in position. So you're not rotating at the hips or the shoulders. You're just focused on push-pulling while maintaining that stance. After the workouts, we move on to the extreme stretches. And so for the bicep one, what I feel works the best for me is that I find a wall, placing my arm directly behind me, and I'm actually turning my wrist over and pointing it away, as you can see in this. And what that's doing is I'm actually stretching the distance between my shoulder, my elbow, and my wrist so that my bicep can get a full stretch. And then you're squaring your shoulders around you facing forward, and you go until you feel that stretch, and you're going to hold it for your 45 seconds. Once you've completed both arms for the biceps, then you do the extreme stretch for the triceps. And here all you're doing putting your arm up behind you and grabbing it with your other hand by the elbow, pulling it past your head so that you can get a full stretch in the tricep.